I moved up here from Los Angeles, California, and that's where I started teaching. So I've been teaching for 11 years now, and I've been here at Oak Harbor for the past 6. This is my 6th year. I'm a bad example for choosing to be a teacher because I didn't. I went to grad school to be an artist, and I majored in art technology, and I was going to be a web designer when I graduated, and that was my plan. And I graduated in 2000 just as the dot-com bubble burst. And a friend of mine's mom was an administrator in Compton, school district in Los Angeles area, and she said, well, you can teach for a year on an emergency credential, because Los Angeles Unified School District was 10,000 teachers short. And so literally you just had to have a college degree. And so I went into the district office and I said, hey, I'm here to teach. And they looked at my transcripts and they said, what do you want to teach? And I said, art. And they said, we don't need art teachers. And I said, what else can I teach? And they said, science. And that was it. I've been a teacher ever since. In grad school, Mark Trail and Sarah Roberts, they're both really just quirky, artsy people. And what I loved about Sarah Roberts was that she focused on why. I would bring artwork to her and I'd show her what I'd done, and everything was, well, why'd you do this? And why'd you do that? And why'd you do the other thing? And you really had to explain everything that you did. And everything that was in your art piece and why it was there. And then Mark Trail was just great because he kind of made me feel like there was nothing that you couldn't do. If you wanted to do things like control a piece of music based on your heartbeat, he'd be like, yeah, you can do that, sure, here's how we can do it, let's look it up and let's find out how to do it. And we look up how to do it, or we get like parts and start putting stuff together and make stuff work. I like kids that are a little bit tougher and a little bit more resilient, and that you can actually work with on an adult level almost. And I feel like I relate better to them on that level, and so it's kind of like I can get on a similar level as the kids in an odd sort of way, and we can interact in a positive way. I find it conducive to helping them learn. I think there's a lot of throwaway moments where we say things in an offhand way, or we say things just, the kids don't do well on a test and you say something offhand and they take it and they use it. And so there is that whole how we have to be careful because we're in that position. There's other times, especially in robotics, one of the nice things is that the kids, it's project-based and competition-based, and so the kids are constantly working on things. And it's nice when you see a group that's been struggling, or you see a kid that's been struggling, and then there is that moment where they get it, and suddenly the robot does something that it couldn't do before, or suddenly they can make the robot do something that they couldn't do before. And so when they get that and they start doing it, it's really nice. So something that's been hard for me has been student apathy. And I feel like we're working on it, and we're trying to build a culture in which the kids are really engaged and want to be here and have that sort of desire to learn. But it's still hard for me when there's a kid that comes in and just doesn't want to do anything. Like, if there was anything that I could like wave a magic wand and fix, it would be to help those kids. So my biggest thing as a robotics teacher is that anything I teach my students, by the time they can use it, will most likely be obsolete. The technology that I was working with 3 years ago, I don't work with anymore. And most people don't work with, because the technology changes so quickly. So any kid who graduates from high school having taken my robotics class is going to have to go to some sort of college in order to be an engineer or work in robotics. The most important thing that I can teach them is how to learn and how to problem solve. Because that's what they need. When I was an art major, it wasn't how to do things, it was why to do things. Because how to do things changes. And I think we need to be teaching the kids why, and the why behind things, and the why to do things. Robotics was a hobby. I was an art major, and I wanted to make art that could interact with the world, and so I started doing robotics kind of on the side and for fun, and I really enjoyed it. And then I got to bring it into my classroom in Los Angeles, and then when I moved up here, it was like, well, why not bring it into the classroom here? So it was just really nice that things kind of worked out the way they did so that I could do that. First Robotics is a really intense program in that there's no excuses, and there's no makeup, and you can't be late, and you can't, like, things have to get done when they're supposed to get done, and that's it. And I think kids take a real sense of responsibility away from it. The other thing is that it's all about cooperation, which is what they call it. So instead of competition or cooperation, it's cooperation, which is a weird word. But everybody there works to see everybody else succeed. So last year when we got there was a team that showed up, and they had no robot. They had 3 people on their team, and they knew nothing. And a couple of kids from our team went over and loaned them parts and loaned them time and got them up and running so that they could pass inspection and compete. And it was literally like 2 kids from our team went over and were like, hey, we're here to help you guys build a robot. And they were, I forget which school it was, but they called themselves the Bears, and they were just amazed that another team that was going to be competing against them would do that another team would just come over and help them do something. And that's what First Robotics is all about. It's not about the robot, it's about the kids learning how to work with other people. And I think they get that.